Anyway, we're going to dive into the Chud the Builder thing. There's a lot of people who've been requesting a breakdown. I haven't given any opinion on it yet because a bunch of facts were still coming out for a while. And I think we probably have enough information now where we can actually give some takes. But one of the reasons that it's useful to have Ryan around is because, well, he's a lawyer. And so he's really good at breaking this stuff down. So I'm glad to see you here. Ryan, how you doing?
Pleasure to be here, Andrew. And what up, Crucible Crew? Very glad to be back. Always a pleasure to see y'all.
Yeah, you too. Hang on, let me turn the chat window off here real quick. 1 second. The chat's covering me up, which I'm sure that they're like probably think is hilarious. Anyway, first thing, Ryan, is we need to dive into the background, right? So give us the kind of background summary so far. I have a video here I can play after that. Then I'm going to get people briefed up, but maybe you could just give us your 2 cents diving in.
Sure. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Ryan Mullally. I've got a channel called Natural Law with Ryan Mullally. Really happy to be here. So Chud the Builder, his real name is Dalton Etherly. He's a Tennessee-based live streamer, and he specializes in IRL content. So he goes around and let's not mince words. What he really does is he goes up to black people and he says, "Do you support free speech?" And they typically say, "Yeah." And then he says, "Do you support white guys who use?" And then he drops the hard R on them. If you watch his content, a lot of the time, the people then say, "Yeah, that's fine," and then he daps them up and they're all friendly. But oftentimes it turns into a confrontation. People get really mad, and then he kind of walks away and he has his selfie stick and he streams over his shoulder and he says, "Stop chimping out," and he records them getting all angry. And that's the viral content, is people getting real angry about him using the N-word. So that's really his content.
Now, he denies, if I have this correct, on the background summary, just to give maybe like a brief condensed stage before we get into any of the clips. 1 second here, I'll pull it up. Sorry, guys. So he does have something of a criminal record. So he got canceled everywhere on the internet for calling 2 black women the N-word during a road rage incident, and it led to him not being able to get work. He was a contractor. He did remodeling work, and his Catholic baptism got canceled. His priest told him that he couldn't go to the parish, and this is an interaction according to Chud the Builder himself, and he started to clip farm black people IRL by walking over and doing exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
In 2025, he starts streaming. His content is meant as shock content. He is infamous locally in his hometown, Clarksville, Tennessee, which helps him get reactions by merely being present. He does instigate sometimes, so he can't really claim to be the victim in every situation, right?
Yeah, and this is a pattern that you see that's somewhat common with like IRL shock streamers. Like, I don't know if you know Johnny Somali, but he got arrested in South Korea. Because the thing about that is, if you're going viral for shocking IRL content, you kind of got to up the ante every week. And as you get famous, people start stream sniping you, and they show up, and now they're there to confront you about what you're doing. So the odds that something escalates increase over time. So you do see this type of streamer get into legal trouble with some regularity. It's not uncommon. Now, here's the important thing, though. The fact that he has this content doesn't mean he did anything wrong in this instance, right?
Correct.
You can't assume whatever you think about Chud the Builder. Like, you might be somebody who says, "That's a free speech warrior. That's a guy who's fighting the good fight. God bless." You might love him for it. Or you might be like, "God, that's shocking. That's a terrible thing to do. I hate that guy. Seems like a bad dude." Whichever camp you fall into, you need to, when we're doing legal analysis, you need to put that on the back burner and say, that's not actually relevant to whether or not he shot this guy and whether or not he was justified in using self-defense. It could come into the story, but his background doesn't justify it or not justify it. It's insufficient to explain his guilt or innocence.
But it is relevant because the court of public opinion, I think people oftentimes pretend that in cases of justice, that public opinion has no bearing or pressure on the court system. That's clearly not true, right? I mean, just clearly that's not the case, right?
Well, we saw that today because he actually has 2 court cases going simultaneously. Because he got arrested for the stuff we're going to talk about today, which was, he claims it's self-defense. The state claims it wasn't self-defense, but it's a shooting. And that's the main thing he's in jail for. But he's also simultaneously in jail because he has other charges which relate to, he went to a restaurant and was filming there. They kicked him out. He refused to pay because they kicked him out. And then he got arrested for disorderly conduct, theft of services from the restaurant, and resisting arrest. And the judge in that second case, so he has 2 cases going on, denied him bail in part after reviewing his social media posts. So the judge looked at his social media and said, oh, you don't seem like the kind of guy I should give bail to. That was part of the judge's analysis. So you can already see it's having an impact on the system. It's not like there's no impact at all.
Right. And there's two caveats here that we should make up front. One, Dalton himself, that's Chud the Builder, he claims that he does not have any hatred for anybody, that this is part of a free speech project that he's been working on for several years, and that occasionally he has actually pleasant confrontations on stream with many of the various people that he talks to as proof and evidence of this. So he's claiming that, of course, the media is taking a lot of his content out of context, that it's actually about freedom of speech. It's not about anything which is racially charged at all, but he's pointing out a hypocrisy which is going on. And the hypocrisy that's going on is, hey, I believe in free speech, but you better not say that or I'll kill you, right? That's
and look, whatever the audience thinks about his content's up to them, but I can verify that what you're saying I did look at some of his content to prep for this is true. In almost every interaction that I've seen, it starts with him walking up to somebody, normally a black person, and saying, do you believe in free speech? And they typically say yes. And then he drops the N-word. And then a lot of the time they actually don't, it's not a confrontation at all. Oftentimes they have a friendly interaction from that point forward. So he certainly does frame it in terms of free speech. Now, whether that moves the needle for you, that's up to you to decide, right? We're here to do some legal analysis tonight, but that is, I would agree with you, Andrew. That is how he approaches his content.
Yeah, and of course, there's a viral nature to it because of the controversy around the language itself. But that's basically what he does, and he does so credibly. It is actually probably credible that this guy is carrying a firearm with him when he's going around, as he probably gets threats all the time from all over the country, right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, in a lot of his videos, he was going around carrying mace because I think I saw a video where he did use mace on somebody who he was in an altercation with. So he definitely does carry defensive tools with him. My understanding, I'm not 100% on this, so I could be wrong, but my understanding is that he had to stop carrying mace because in one of his other court cases, he got told you can't carry mace anymore. So now he's carrying his gun, which, I'm not sure that's a step up in terms of public safety, but, that was what the court ordered. My understanding, again, I could be wrong, that he wasn't.
Well, and state laws often have contrary and bizarre laws when it comes to less lethal versus more lethal weapons, it's always been bizarre to me. For instance, in many states for a long time, you couldn't carry a switchblade, but you could carry a firearm, right?
Yeah.
It's well, that makes no sense. But a lot of that came from the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s because of all of the there was various musicals about 1960s greasers stabbing each other with switchblades, and so there was a moral panic that the public had to deal with, and after the public dealt with it, they dealt with it by basically banning these objects. But many states are beginning to roll those laws back because it obviously makes no sense, right?
Yeah, and in this case, there's no question he had a firearm. In terms of the facts that are not reasonably disputed. Now, keep in mind when I say this, there's not been a trial yet, so we're just talking about the facts that have come out through the press, through the arrest warrant, through the court hearings. But the things that I think cannot reasonably be disputed is that he approached Joshua Fox, who was with a woman. They said something. We don't know what. We don't know what was said, but something was said. Then an altercation broke out. Now, Chud the Builder has a description of that altercation, but I'm not going to include that because that's a disputed fact. I'm just talking undisputed facts. A fight breaks out and they're wrestling. It seems very likely that at some point during the wrestling match, he pulls out his gun. He shoots Joshua Fox somewhere between 4 and 6 times, and he also shoots himself in the left arm. And then the fight's broken up, and paramedics arrive, and they're taken to the hospital. Now, there is some question as to when the gun got pulled. Was it before the fight? The best reading of the evidence that I've seen so far is that it happened during the scuffle, but there are people on X tonight who are claiming that there's a video that shows that he drew the gun before the fight started. That would be a big fact. So I don't know for sure in that instance, but I have not been convinced by the evidence I've seen so far that he drew the gun before the wrestling match started. So
gotcha. Now he does have a bit of a background, but it's not much, right? Mostly it's traffic violations. There's one drug charge and then a contempt of court charge too. That's what we were able to dig up, but it's not major, right? This guy's not like a career criminal. He's not a prohibited person from having a firearm, right?
There's an unknown there. It wouldn't, not that he's prohibited from having a firearm, but when we get into the self-defense analysis, Tennessee is a stand your ground state, so you don't have to retreat, but you lose the privilege of stand your ground if you have a felony or qualifying misdemeanor. One open question that I don't think we know the answer to yet is, because he was already having a court problem due to that resisting arrest charge, it's possible that he wasn't allowed to carry the gun because of the conditions of bond in that other court, in which case he might lose the benefit of stand your ground. That doesn't mean that he loses self-defense completely. Right. But there could be a little bit of play in the joints.
Because it is in fact the case that even if you are a person who's prohibited from having a firearm, if you use one in self-defense, you still may be able to get off on the charge of self-defense, even if they charge you for having the firearm illegally, correct?
Correct. It's just that you don't get the benefit of stand your ground, which makes it a lot easier to prove self-defense. Because in a place like Tennessee or Florida where they've got, I know all the
now, I don't know. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit because I don't actually understand that. Does stand your ground laws only apply to firearms themselves?
No, they apply to lethal force in general. So the idea of stand your ground laws is in most jurisdictions, if somebody is approaching you with the intent to do you death or seriously bodily injury, and that's true, you could defend yourself with lethal force to prevent them from killing you, which is, I think, common sense. But if you could just leave, right? Like if they're like, I'm gonna stab you, but it's like, well, I'm in my car, I could just drive away.
But that's the duty to retreat,
exactly,
right?
Right. But if you could retreat and you don't, then you lose your self-defense, and if you use deadly force. But in Tennessee, there's no duty to retreat unless you lose that because you were committing a felony.
Then I don't actually understand the gun side of this at all. So even if he was prohibited in carrying a firearm, if he used one in self-defense, why would stand your ground laws not apply to him then? That's what I don't understand.
Because under Tennessee law, you lose your stand your ground privileges, essentially, like it's written into the statute, if you are currently committing a felony or a qualifying misdemeanor. So
so he would be committing the misdemeanor by carrying a firearm he's not supposed to have.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see.
Now, would that really matter in this case? Maybe not.
Well, I mean, it could though, right?
It sure
could. That could matter a ton if it's the case that now you can't use the stand your ground laws because you're committing a misdemeanor. So you know that negates the defensive claim. That sounds like a pretty nasty loophole, honestly.
That could be very, very bad for him. But on the flip side, let's do a hypothetical. Let's say that Mr. Fox, because according to Chud the Builder, according to his account, you can believe it or not, but according to his account, Mr. Fox ran up to him and said, "I have PTSD," put him in a headlock and started beating on him. Well, even if in a duty to retreat state, you can't retreat when you're in a headlock and you're getting hit, right? So even if he had a duty to retreat, in that scenario, he couldn't have retreated So the whole issue.
Well, hang on. This chatter makes a good point. I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail as we dive into the conversation, but this chatter says, well, wait a second. If you're here illegally, that's a misdemeanor, right? Does that mean that you just don't get stand your ground?
It's a qualifying misdemeanor. They have a list. It's like I think it's like in Tennessee, I think the law says it has to be a type A misdemeanor. So they have a list of misdemeanors that qualify. I don't think immigration status qualifies, but I'd have to look it up.
Of course not. So you could not know that you're a prohibited person and it doesn't qualify to you now, but you definitely are a person who's not even supposed to be here and it could still qualify for you.
Though in his case, if a judge told him as a condition of your bond, you can't carry a gun, he would certainly know if that's the case. By the way, we don't know that. We don't have the court records yet.
Yeah, this guy in Rumble, his name is Rocco. This is what we're trying to figure out, right? He says, but you can use a gun in self-defense even though you aren't allowed to own one, I thought. Yeah. But in this particular case, that may not be the case because written into the statute, what Ryan is saying is that if you're in the commission of a misdemeanor, then you don't have the same qualified immunity from stand your ground. And if it was the case that he was prohibited from having a firearm, then he was technically committing a misdemeanor. That's a really fucked up loophole.
It's a pretty bad one. It's a pretty bad one for Mr. Etherly. Now, that said, even without the benefit of stand your ground, he could still have a good self-defense argument, right? Because stand your ground just says you don't have a duty to retreat. But if he didn't have the option of retreating, the whole issue is irrelevant, right? And if the guy was, if he was being wrestled to the ground by a lunatic trying to beat his head in, well, you can't retreat. He's wrestling you, right? If I got a UFC fighter on top of me punching my face in, I can't retreat.
Right.
So the issue might be moot. It might not matter. But so I don't know if you want to dive more into the facts or if you want me to go through the elements of the self-defense claim. So people.
Well, let's start with the clip here from the New York Post, and we'll kind of take it from there. Hang on a second. And I'll pull this up and then you can kind of build off of it. So for those of you just tuning in, I invited Ryan on. As you know, Ryan's an attorney. I actually invited him on the program to walk us through the legalities of this Chud the Builder case, as I see it everywhere, and there's been a lot of chat requests that there be a full breakdown. So that's what we're here doing this fine evening. Give me just a second, and I will pull this up.
There'll be a good pause pretty short in because they're going to show a video of the fight, but it's really hard to see, so we might want to pause and talk about it for a second.
Sure. 1 sec. For some reason, I'm having some trouble getting it to go full screen. I'm not sure why that's happening. Give me just a minute here.
All good. But yeah, if you guys have been following this, there's one of the things that's been happening. Okay, I'll stop filibustering.
Yeah, no, you're good. All right. So here's the video. This is from Clarksville, Tennessee. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Viral video circulating online purports to show the chaos.
So you see, that's them. Now, I can't tell who's who, and I don't think anybody could tell who's who from this. This is impossible to see. But you can see that they're wrestling. They're going to the ground and wrestling in this clip. So
yeah, and it's also very blurry.
Yeah.
I don't know why it is the case that in the year 2026, everything still in the court system looks like a Rodney King video, where it's grainy and blurry and you can't really tell what's going on. It's very frustrating to me. And I know that has a lot to do with budget, that these guys are often using equipment from 10, 15 years ago. If it works, don't do anything with it, right? But this, I think that a lot of the clear video imagery from modern video cameras, that we would be well served with some infrastructure updates. You know what I mean? Around these basically CCTV events.
Online purports to show the chaotic aftermath of a racist streamer.
So if you see right there, you can see the police breaking up now, but this is why I was saying I'm not sure duty to retreat's going to matter, because in that scenario, how the hell are you retreating?
You can't. There's no way.
Right. So if he pulled a gun, if it's the case that he pulled the gun while they were wrestling, then I don't think duty to retreat's going to matter. because you can't retreat when somebody's grappling you.
But how does this relate again to the fact that if it's the case that this guy was in the commission already of a misdemeanor, so the stand your ground doesn't apply to him? So even if he's in the confrontation, he can't retreat. Maybe he can have some other self-defense, but he may not be able to utilize stand your ground still, correct?
Exactly, because one of the elements of a self-defense claim, we'll talk about this in depth later, is avoidability. Could you have avoided the need to use lethal force? Well, and if you could have retreated, then you should have. And then you might lose your ability to use lethal force in self-defense. But if you are being wrestled to the ground and beaten, you can't avoid that situation. This is kind of like the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. Remember where he got hit on the back of the head and he fell, and then they tried to reach for his gun, and then he fired? He couldn't retreat. Even if there was a duty to retreat, Rittenhouse couldn't have retreated. He was on the ground. They were coming for him. So, even if he had a duty to retreat, that's not a duty to suicide. That's a duty to retreat if you can.
Well, Tricks Bandit on Rumble's asking, what about the guy stating online he was going to go confront Chud? Does that move who is the aggressor at all?
It certainly can. And as we get into this, one of the key facts, and this is in the Carmelo Anthony case and in this one too, is who started the fight? Who provoked who? Because if you're the provocateur, you generally don't get self-defense. But if you were the provoked party, you could get self-defense. So a big question is going to be what was Chud saying and doing, and what was Fox saying and doing during their interaction that led up to this confrontation.
By the way, just a real quick intermission. This is a custom developed chat system that the Crucible custom developed itself. That's why we can use OBS and still pull up the Rumble chats and Dono chats and things like this. It's a very, very, very cool system. So thanks to Froggy for helping with the development of that. But because it's real nice to be able to pull up the Rumble chatters, even though they're really stupid usually, sometimes they have really good questions. So we'll keep going through this here.
Shooting a black man.
Now this is just pure chaos, and I'm sure that you could go frame by frame to try to analyze it. But I'm told that there's different angles of this that may be coming out soon. Have you heard that?
Yeah, and some people are reporting that there's a video that has audio and shows when a shell casing hit the ground. So there's all kinds of evidence that people are speculating about right now. I'm not 100% sure what they have and don't have because we just haven't gone to trial yet.
Gotcha. Okay. And there's a lot of questions that you guys are going to have. And I know that we're going to be kind of jumping around a little bit because there's many of you are more familiar with the case than others. This is just an analysis. We're not making any moral claims of who's right, wrong, indifferent, anything like that. It's just an analysis of the facts as we know them. And it's an analysis of the legalities that are involved in this.
Outside a Tennessee courthouse, streamer Chud the Builder, whose real name is Dalton Etherly, shot the unidentified man during a scuffle on May 13th outside of the courthouse in Clarksville, according to the DA, who said Chud also accidentally shot himself during the confrontation. The 28-year-old has amassed an online...
Now, real quick, diving into that, are you familiar with the accident? He accidentally shot himself.
Yes, and this is there's another great law tuber called Andrew Branca, who's an expert in self-defense. So I want to give him credit for this point because it's a really good one. His point was, if you shoot yourself, and he shot himself in his left arm, right? If you imagine you're trying to draw your firearm and you accidentally shoot yourself in the arm, how could that possibly happen? Well, one way that could happen that's very plausible is that you're in a headlock. You're getting wrestled and you're trying to shoot a guy who's grappling you and you accidentally hit yourself while you're hitting him. So Branca's point, which I think is fair, is that the fact that he shot himself implies a likelihood that at least some of the shots were fired in that during the course of that wrestling match.
Right. Now, this guy, some of the things that may come up during the trial that are kind of obvious to me is the fact that this dude is not a small guy and he seems like he's in fairly decent shape, right? And so the justification for pulling the gun, obviously that's going to come up, right?
Yeah, it's going to come up, and there's going to be a question as to whether or not lethal force is proportional, especially because no one has suggested that Mr. Fox was armed. Now, unarmed combat can be lethal, right? Like back to my example, if an MMA fighter has me pinned on the ground and is beating my face in, that's lethal force.
Yeah, my understanding actually is that more people are killed with hands and feet than they are rifles in the United States. That's how much more common it is to die from hand-to-hand combat than it is to die from even a long arm, right?
Yeah, but and I think that's right. And this is why it's going to be a cultural war point, though. If you remember the Carmelo Anthony case, in that case, Metcalf gave Carmelo Anthony a shove and Carmelo Anthony stabbed him. That's disproportionate. Right. A shove is not lethal force, and it doesn't justify a stab. Now, if all that happened here was a shove and then, Dalton pulls out his gun and shoots him, he's going to lose. He's going to lose. On the flip side, if the guy grabbed him and is beating his face in, and then Dalton pulls out his gun and shoots him, he has a much better self-defense argument. And don't get, by the way, for people in chat, don't get angry. I'm trying to give you unbiased legal analysis here. I'm not picking a side. I want to give you good facts. So hopefully, if you get triggered by that, you can relax a little bit.
Well, now a little bit of an argument from me here. Is it not the case, though, that when it comes to these things, these are mostly vibed out, right? So don't they come from your personal feeling of, I feel that my threat level is very high. I feel like, this guy has intent to kill me. A lot of that comes from vibes themselves, doesn't it?
Well, it's complicated. So I'm going to say yes and no. So here's where it's complicated. Under the law, you have to have a reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury to use lethal force. And that is tested both objectively and subjectively. So you have to really believe it, and it has to be objectively reasonable for someone to believe it.
Yeah, but how could that ever be objectively reasonable?
That's the part where I was going to agree with you. So technically under the law, that's the standard. But then how is the standard applied? It goes to the jury. And the jury decides whether you honestly believed you had this.
So it's vibes. They're vibing it, right? They're just vibing it.
Well, it's a black box. We never know. The jury never has to give you an answer about how they figure that out, right? They get read the instruction about what objective and subjective means by the court, and then they tell you whether it was met or not. So if there's vibes, the vibes are the jury is ultimately the one who decides these things, not the judge.
Well, this question comes in 1984. He says, in my mind, there is a universal truth. Unless those words are, I'm going to kill you, words never justify action. My understanding is Chud was attacked because it was known where he was.
Yeah. And this is the thing. We don't know what the facts are yet here, right? And the question here is not whether or not Mr. Fox was justified in attacking Chud, right? It could be the case that they both acted illegally, for the record.
Yeah, the philosophy brains are going crazy in the chat. One of them says, that's a hard standard, objectively subjective, LOL. Right, and that's kind of my complaint here is how do you even develop an objective standard for this other than you're vibing it out? Unless you say things like they have to be within a certain amount of feet, or there's preconditions that are already set in the law. If it's just it has to meet some critical threshold that's arbitrary that we make up on the spot, how's that not all just subjective metric?
For the philosophy brains in chat, the way the law does that is that they talk about a reasonable person. So when they say objectively, that's legal speak for you tell the jury. It must be, in order for there to be self-defense, it must be the case that Dalton subjectively truly did believe that he was in fear. It had to be a genuine belief for him, and that a reasonable person in his position would have had the same belief. And
but
then,
aren't we just back to the subjective again? Like, what would a reasonable person believe is going to be kind of up to the criterion of your individual perspective, right?
Yes, but it's a different subjective. Like basically, if you're going to be philosophy brained about it, the first question is, did Dalton subjectively have that belief? And then the second question, if you're going to be philosophy brained, is intersubjectively within your culture in Tennessee, is that belief reasonable? And they call that objective, but it's actually technically intersubjective.
Yeah, that's interesting then. So that would that must be why jury pool selection is so important for locality, because obviously in, like, for instance, the rural cultures of Michigan, where I was living, if you touched something you weren't supposed to touch on somebody's property, you weren't getting off that property. Okay, that's how it worked. And all of the neighbors and everybody, even the local police force, would likely make sure that you were fine, right? Oh, this guy was where he wasn't supposed to be, and now he's not. Don't worry about it. Go back to your day. We got this under control, right? So it really does depend a lot on the locality of the culture to make the determination of what reasonable even is, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. And this is why local juries are so critical, because they should be applying the standards of your community.
Right. Okay. Makes sense to me.
And following by filming himself spewing vile racial slurs, such as referring to black people as chimps and openly saying the N-word to get reactions. In footage captured by Clarksville Now, Etherly could be seen tended to by first responders at the scene, where he began streaming his interactions following the alleged shooting. Etherly can be heard blaming his gunfire on the other man, who was black according to witnesses, saying the man confronted and threatened him over his vile online content.
He said, "You start saying all that chimp out to me, I'm gonna hit you." He hit me, started wailing on me, even after I had to defend myself by shooting him. He's still wailing on me.
Can you pause?
So, yeah.
This is a critical point. And we haven't gotten to the legal analysis about why yet, but just I want to flag it factually for the audience, even if I haven't given the analysis yet. One of the key questions in this case is going to be, did Chud go up to this guy and say provocative things? Or, as your chat was suggesting, did this guy recognize Chud and say, "You're that guy who says all that provocative stuff on the internet. I've got PTSD. I'm going to bash your head in"? Those are very different factual scenarios. Very different factual scenarios. And I think we're going to hear a lot of evidence about that at trial.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more, actually?
Sure. Maybe I'll to give a little bit of background.
Remember that you are talking to the Crucible's Rumble chat, and they have a collective IQ of about 5. So
can I back up and go super big picture?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So Chud's accused of shooting a guy, right? Like an aggravated assault, an attempted murder even. So Chud's defense is self-defense. Now, if you assert self-defense, the typical defense in like a crime like this is I didn't do it, or I didn't mean to do it. But if you assert self-defense, you're giving those up because you're admitting you did it and you're admitting you meant to do it, right? You're saying I did it, but I was justified in doing it. So that's the defense. But so now that he said that, the prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he's not entitled to use self-defense. So they have to prove that some element of self-defense doesn't apply to him. And there's 5 elements to self-defense.
So he said all the right words at the right time.
In terms of his legal defense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he said, I feel like I was justified in using lethal force. That's his asserted defense. He's not guilty because he was justified in using his gun.
Gotcha.
Right?
It's one of the few cases where doubling down is a good thing.
Yeah, it's typically not how criminal law goes.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
So then, again, remember, the prosecution has the burden. They've got to disprove this, but they don't have to disprove every element. They just have to disprove one. If they disprove one of these things, he loses. So what are the things? They have to disprove that he had a reasonable belief, both subjective and objective, the way we just went through, that he was under a threat of death or serious bodily injury, that threat was imminent. It was about to happen, not in the future. It was right now. That he was innocent, meaning he didn't provoke the fight. If he provoked the fight, he doesn't get self-defense. And that his actions were proportional, meaning, the Metcalf situation in Carmelo Anthony. Like if someone shoves you, you can't stab him. You have to be proportional with your use of force. And that he didn't have the opportunity to retreat, or that the no duty to retreat law gets rid of that problem for him. So you have those elements, which are: was it reasonable? Was the threat imminent? Are you innocent in this? Like you didn't start the fight. Was your force proportional? And then 5th, could you have avoided the confrontation, or does the no duty of retreat rule apply? So all those are the 5 things that are going to be litigated.
Gotcha. Okay, so dive in just real quick too, because there's going to be some people in the chat who are just assholes, right? Remember that a lot of YouTube lawyers have never tried a case. They've never done anything like this. I'm not going to name Pisco. I'm not going to. I would never do that, right? So they have terrible records. Now, Ryan, just to kind of assuage the chat here a little bit. You have been to trial many, many times as an attorney, have you not?
I've been to trial. I've litigated. I once had the opportunity to litigate before the U.S. Supreme Court. I've gone to countless arbitrations. I am not, and I want to be candid about this, I am not a criminal defense attorney. That's not my gig. That's not my gig. And I will, once again, shout out Andrew Branca. If you're interested in self-defense law, I think that he's the YouTuber who covers this the most. So there are wonderful self-defense attorneys out there. But I will say, if you go watch Andrew Branca, he's going to say the exact same thing that I'm saying, because there is law on this. Like we're not making it up.
Right.
And what I'm trying to do tonight is give you down the middle analysis, and then you can fill in the blanks. Like if you think the facts change, then you can tell me what you think the facts are. But what I'm trying to give you is the right argument, the right structure to your argument. Like if you want to say Chud, let's say your position is Chud should go free. Well, then you need to be somebody who's willing to who can tee this up in your mind and say, yeah, he had a reasonable fear. It was imminent. This guy was about to beat his ass. It was proportional because the guy was in fact beating his ass when this happened, and he couldn't retreat because the guy had him in a headlock, and then he shot him. That would be a classic self-defense argument. But then you're going to have to get into the provocation piece as well, which I think is going to be a live issue in this trial.
Gotcha. Okay. Appreciate it. We'll keep going.
Where in the 16-minute clip, the streamer can be heard asking authorities if he shot himself amid the scuffle, noting a graze on his arm.
By the way, on the R side, for the mods over there, ban Dark Side Lawyer.
Victim was medically evacuated and is recovering in stable condition, officials said. The mustached antagonist was supposed to appear at the court for a civil case over unpaid debts, which comes just days after he was arrested for allegedly refusing to pay a $400 restaurant bill, even after he polished off his entire meal. Following the shooting, Etherly was booked into the Montgomery County Jail, while the local sheriff's office vowed those responsible would be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. Etherly has been charged with attempted murder, employing a firearm during dangerous felony, aggravated assault, and reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon.
All right. So you want to wrap that up real quick, right?
Yeah. So again, they've charged him with reckless assault, assault with a deadly weapon, these violent crimes, right? So again, he has not said, I didn't do those things. He has admitted, I got into a confrontation, I used my weapon, but I think my use of force was justified. So there's no question that if he fails on self-defense, he's guilty. He admitted to doing the thing that's illegal. The question only is, was his use of force justified? And the question there is, can the state poke holes in these 5 elements, which are, again, was his fear reasonable? Was his use of force proportionate? Was the threat imminent? Was he innocent, or did he provoke the fight? And did he have a duty to retreat, or could he have retreated?
Gotcha. Okay. As we dive into more of this, so this apparently gives us all of the kind of backstory from his attorneys.
Well, this is from the prosecutor's perspective. This is not his attorney.
Right, from the prosecutor's perspective as to what's going on here, right? And we also have the defense, and we have a bunch of other videos to go through. But I think that this is where the analysis has to come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just common sense says it's the firearm because he has the selfie stick in his left hand. And then Mr. Fox strikes him. As the gun comes out, 7 shots are fired within seconds.
Can you pause? Two
7 shots.
Yeah. Two really key facts, I think. Well, 3 key facts came out there. First, he had the selfie stick in one hand and the gun in the other. The selfie stick pretty strongly implies he was filming content, for whatever that's worth. Second, he said that the fight, the guy hit him as the gun was being fired. The timing there might matter. And then there's 7 shots. My understanding is that one of those went into Chud's own arm. 2 of those ricocheted off the surroundings, which is what the reckless endangerment charge is all about. And the rest went into Mr. Fox.
7 shots indicates to me panic firing. Right? If you're, that would go right in line with a self-defense charge. So most people who are engaged in self-defense with a handgun, they often don't fire only enough shots to neutralize the threat. They become panicked, and they generally, this is very common even for police officers. They dump the whole mag, right? And that's known as panic firing.
Yeah, and the arrest warrant was very vague on this point. They said, like, the confrontation initiated. They said, Chud took a bladed stance, meaning that just means he took a step back with one foot to get in a self-defense posture and reached for his gun. And then they're not very clear about the timing, about, like, was he hit? Was he grabbed before he drew? Or did he draw before the guy closed on him? And I think those are key details in this case that I just don't think we know yet.
Right.
5 of them, I believe, struck Mr. Fox as they...
5 of them. So now this could potentially weaken Chud the Builder's case, right? As he's saying, after he shot the guy in his own audio transcription from the previous clip we saw, that he was still wailing on him.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting because usually you're not continuing to wail on somebody with 5 bullet wounds, right? That's not typical. So there's clearly more there than meets the eye, right?
It's interesting though, because at that first video we saw, like, they were scuffling and they hit the ground and then the cops broke it up, right? So it was very fast. So this whole thing could have been 2-3 seconds that we're talking about.
He went to the ground fighting. That is the case. Like I said at the prelim, some of these are going to be splitting hairs. Some of this law about self-defense, the proportionality of a punch compared to using deadly force, whether there was provocation that negates a self-defense.
Can you pause?
Yeah, he's clearly trying to get ahead here by saying that that it's not proportional, right? This is what you were just saying before.
Yeah, and again, remember I gave you those 5 elements that are key? This is the prosecutor. He's telling you which ones he thinks are most important. Whether Chud provoked the fight and whether it was proportional to use deadly force in this instance. Those are the key ones from the prosecutor's perspective, because he wants to make the case that A, Chud came up and said something real offensive and picked a fight or whatever he did. And B, he wants to make the argument that Chud didn't have to use the gun. He could have just gone fist to fist in this scenario. And that would have been fine.
Now, Chatter says a lot of people walk off 9mm wounds, not enough kinetic energy to anchor somebody. That's absolutely not true. In fact, there has been multitudes of very reliable and replicatable studies that show that even with a .22, if somebody gets hit, the confrontation's usually over in one shot. If they're hit even one time, the confrontation's usually done and they stop fighting immediately. So that's actually not true. 9mm technology has come a long way as well. Even if he's using FMJs, that's a very, very, very fast round, and it will knock you right off your feet for sure. So it could be possible that while he struck 5 times, he may not have been struck in, the chest region multiple times. It could have been like arm. It could have been shoulder. It could have been in places like this, right?
I think he got the only one I know he got one in the stomach, but I think that's the only center mass one that he got. I have a question about that though. How would that change if they were wrestling? Like, let's say, he's not standing free. Let's say he has Chud in a headlock and they're grappling and then he gets shot. Do you think that would change whether or not the gun's stopping power would knock him off?
Oh, well, it depends. Well, there's a lot of factors there, right? So the first factor is ammunition type. Okay, if Chud the Builder is using hollow points, the conversation's over.
Yeah.
Okay, it's over. So there's a high likelihood that he wasn't. It's more likely to me he was using FMJs. And he didn't actually hit this guy 5 times, in the chest area. That doesn't sound likely to me. I mean, it could have happened. Strange things happen when people are shot or stabbed. There's people who've been shot 15 times and continue to fight. Even in critical regions, it's rare, but it happens. So, I'm not willing to die on the hill, but it just seems unlikely to me. So ammunition's one, the angle in which you're hit is another one, and then where you're hit is the other one, right?
Yeah.
But 9mm in the chest region will definitely take somebody right off their feet.
Yeah, and I guess the guy's still alive, right? So, like if he was hit, for example, in the chest or the stomach with hollow points at point blank range, I don't think they're saving him. So I think from what I've seen online, it was 380 was the shell casings that they found. But I'm not enough of a gun guy. Maybe you can tell me more about that, about what kind of stopping power that would have.
Which thing?
It was 380 ammo, so .380.
Yeah, so that's a 9mm short.
Okay.
So that's 380 ACP. So ACP stands for automatic Colt pistol. That's 45 ACP, all of that automatic Colt pistol rounds. So 380 is a 9mm short. Think of a 9mm as being a 357 Magnum to a 38. 9mm to 380 would be the same kind of equivalence. That's not quite accurate, but it's a good way to think of it. You can actually neck down 9mm casings and use 9mm bullets to make 380 ammo. It's just not a problem. But 380s are still, they're fast little rounds, are very zippy. They don't have as much stopping power as a 9mm does. So,
okay. So yeah, it seems like there's from what I've read, he got one in the stomach and then he got 4 in extremities.
He got 4. What are considered extremities?
Let's see if we can find that information out, because I don't have an exact detail of where he got shot. Did Fox get shot? Let's see if anyone's reported on that.
No. Don't get it confused. It's not a 38. He said it's a 380.
Yeah, it's a 380.
They're not the same.
Yeah, it seems like he got struck once in the stomach and then in the arm.
Who? The
Fox.
guy?
Yeah.
Okay, but I thought he was hit 5 times.
I don't think I have the exact reporting about that. I know that they said that there were 2 ricochet rounds. Times did Fox.
So this would go without knowing that would go to my theory then that these were not 5 center mass place shots, right?
No.
So that makes more sense to me, how he could be hit multiple times this way without dropping immediately. Now, you can argue with me all you want, but I'm just telling you right now, to any of you in the chat, if you have 5 center mass place shots with a 9mm, the person is just like, the chances of them doing anything after that are basically non-existent.
Yeah, I haven't seen a breakdown of exactly where the shots were, but the reporting that I've seen indicates that the most damaging shot was the one that was in kind of the stomach region, but that he was primarily hit in the shoulder and one arm. So, and that does seem consistent. If you have a situation where you've got 2 bullets ricocheting, you've got 5 shots that are a little bit all over the place, and then you've got Chud shooting himself in his own arm, that does seem like a panic fire mid-grapple sort of firing pattern.
Yeah. Now, if this is the case, if he was only actually struck 2 times, then it's very possible that they were actually using hollow point rounds, especially if it was in the stomach region. So if it's in the stomach and then it's in the upper arm, that is very possible.
Yeah.
So if it's only struck 2 times, one's in the extremity, one's in the stomach, that changes things significantly. But if he's actually shot 5 times, I'd like to know where, right?
Yeah.
And all those things happen later. But some of these things showing just some poor 4B stuff, motive and intent. He has posted things on X, made other videos on X on what his intent is.
Can we pause there?
Sure.
This is going to be a big fight in this case, because there's 2 things in the law that are going to run contrary to each other here. One point is whether Chud provoked the fight is very relevant. But the prosecution's going to want to bring in all his social media stuff because it's going to make him look terrible in front of the jury. But normally, under the law, you're not allowed to just bring in evidence to dirty somebody up. There's a rule that says you can't bring in character evidence just to prove that somebody would act consistent with that character, which makes sense, right? Like, if the question is, did Chud say something that's provocative? If you bring in 100 examples of him saying racist stuff, that's going to taint the jury's mind, but it doesn't actually answer the question, did he say something like that that one day? So it's very prejudicial is the problem. The prosecution's going to try to bring in as much of this as possible. And he has all kinds of provocative stuff on his X account, on his Kick, which I think got taken down, on his Pulse, on all social media. And the defense is going to be fighting very hard to keep as much of that out. And who wins that fight might determine who wins the trial.
Now, I know that this is a silly question, right? But somebody in the chat asked it, and I'm sure many people actually want the answer to it. Is Fox dead?
No, Fox is alive. Fox is recovering
alive
in the hospital, which
Okay.
I think I don't know for sure that they didn't use hollow points, but that strikes me as at least evidence that he's consistent with the fact that he was not using hollow points. Because I think
medical technology has come a long way, especially when it comes to gunshot wounds. An example of this is the death rate from a mortal wound in World War II versus Vietnam was night and day. And then if you fast forward to the Iraq War, the treating for gunshot wounds was so sophisticated that most people who were wounded actually didn't die from them.
Really?
So we have exceptionally good trauma response for gunshots now in comparison to what we had even just 70, 80 years ago. It's like night and day. So you can really mangle the shit out of somebody and they'll often survive those attacks now, whereas they wouldn't have before.
Yeah, and they to that point, they were outside a courthouse. You saw police break up the fight while it was happening. So their emergency response time is going to be instant. So to that point, I guess it is possible that even with a pretty severe gunshot wound, the guy might have just received prominent medical attention.
Now, Zombie says, I'm reading a report that says there's only 3 shots. I'm not sure what Ryan is reading, but it is definitely not an accurate representation. Bro, we just heard the attorney. We heard what the prosecution just said. Were you not here for that? Or did you just not listen to what the prosecutor or the prosecuting attorney just said? He just said that there was more than 3 shots. So like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Now, to be fair to your chatter, and maybe I shouldn't be fair to your chatter, so maybe this is a mistake, but this early in the case, remember, they haven't had to prove any of this stuff yet. This is the prosecution talking to the judge and saying, this is what happened, Judge. Let me walk you through it. But they haven't had to stand up there in court and prove all this stuff with evidence yet. So a lot of the time, lawyers say all kinds of things about what they're going to prove, and then it turns out at trial they can't prove anything. So, he could be wrong. He could be the case, but I don't see why he'd lie to the judge about 7 shots. That seems bizarre, right? It's like I'm reading there's only 3 shots. Like, well, okay, he's telling this to the judge, the prosecuting attorney. That seems like that conflicting report would be very meaningful at this point. You'd have to be real dumb.
You'd have to be real stupid
to lie to the judge to his face, right? That said, did you watch the Rittenhouse trial?
I did catch some of it when Rakita was covering it. I thought those were pretty good streams.
Oh, the best moment in the Rittenhouse trial was at one point there was a question to this thing about lying to the judge. There was a question about the length of the gun barrel. And the judge was saying, I don't think to the prosecutor, I don't think you've got this right. I think this whole thing you've got about the gun barrel is wrong. I can't believe we've gone this far. He's kind of yelling at the prosecutor, like, how on earth could we have gone this far? And you're kind of lying about the gun barrel length. And the lawyer's trying to do his dance, and the judge just stops and goes, should we measure it? We have it in court, right? And the prosecutor goes, oh yeah, I'll drop that count.
Oh no.
And that's when I was like, holy shit, this guy's innocent. This guy's going to get off. Because once you lose your credibility with the judge, like, you're done. So it does happen. Sometimes an overzealous prosecutor will go out on a limb, but it's unusual.
Yeah, but also fuck the chat. Like, being mean to the chat is good. And we don't want them to think that they have the upper hand here ever. That would be bad. So
Yeah.
even though that chatter's actually asking probably a smart question, fuck him anyway. Right?
Yeah. Just put him in his place.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Fuck him.
Of this year on X, he posted, "Keep encouraging your fellow blacks to assault me. When you see a chimp with their brains blown out on the timeline, just know y'all did this to your own people."
Now, is that the muddying the water that you're talking about, or?
Yeah. So, yeah. Now, keep in mind, this is not the jury. The jury is not here. This is the judge. So the judge can hear this without muddying the water. But imagine, like, we're all kind of internet brained, right? We're not normies. Imagine a jury of 12 normies, and they get read that. They see that post. Whew, that's pretty prejudicial. That's gonna make conviction real easy. So if the defense can't keep that out of the trial, and he's got a account full of stuff like that, especially because some of his posts, now I want to be fair to him, people were stream sniping him and encouraging others to show up and confront him. So he had a lot of posts saying things to the effect of, if you show up and assault me, I will defend myself. But he doesn't say it that way, right? He says it a lot spicier than I just said it. And even if he's legally within his rights to say it, it certainly could give the jury the impression that he was looking for an opportunity to shoot somebody.
Now, Peaches says Fox is a black military veteran, but he has a long criminal history of multiple assaults, contempt of court, etc. How will that affect the case?
Well, I mean, he did say that the guy said, "I have PTSD," and was charging at him. So the first question is, do you have a reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury? So if Fox physically looks like the kind of guy who could hurt you, and then
says that he has a mental illness.
Yeah, he says he has a mental illness. And I don't know this is true. We don't know the timing of the gun being drawn and fired versus the physical altercation. But imagine, let's just say these are the facts. Fox is a fit guy. He's ex-military. He gets up, says, "I have PTSD," and runs and grabs you and starts punching you in the face. That does sound like you have a reasonable fear that you could be killed in that situation. A guy just announced he's an insane person and is trying to murder you with his fists. That does sound quite reasonable at that point. So I think it will matter there. What I don't think is going to matter is Fox's criminal history, this sort of thing, because how would Dalton have known any of that in that moment? There's no way.
I see. Steven says, Chud was in the right place for something he did wrong. He fucked up. Joshua Fox had no reason to be there with evidence of him searching for Chud. So in other words, if it's the case that this guy was there specifically to go after Chud, then that would speak to motivation against that individual, right?
Well, and remember, the key thing for Dalton is one of the 5 key things is his innocence in this. Did he start the fight? So who provoked who is going to matter. So there is a difference here. If Dalton walked up to this guy and provoked him with crazy language, he might lose his self-defense case. On the other hand, if Fox was stream sniping him and was like, "Oh yeah, that crazy racist has been going around town saying stuff, I'm gonna show up and start a fight with him." Well, now it sounds like Dalton didn't provoke anything. So this could be a key fact, right? And a lot of people get confused about this. They say First Amendment, I have the right to say whatever I want to say. That this isn't a First Amendment issue. No one's saying that the N-word's illegal. That's not the point here. The point is more imagine you were at your mother's funeral and a guy came up to you and said, "Yeah, she was a whore and I banged that bitch 100 times. You probably hit that guy, right? Because he provoked you. And probably, he doesn't get to then shoot you or stab you because he picked the fight.
Right.
Right.
Now, real quick too, just a modification for the chat. Because Ryan is going to probably be giving in-depth answers to the things that you're asking. You're welcome to send in dono chats or super chats or whatever, but unless they're 20 or above, I'm not going to read them out as we're covering this, because otherwise we'll get stuck up on many of those answers. So yeah, 20 or higher if you want Ryan to respond to those things.
Andrew's giving you a discount. My billable rate's astronomical.
Yes, it is.
May 7, 2016. This is 6 days before this event. Chud the Builder posts on X. I will defend my life with lethal force. Do not approach me with intent to threaten bodily harm.
Now, coupons.
And he posts another.
People, this is what I mean. People who hate Chud are going to hear that and say, see, he was planning it. He was planning it. But that statement is just a statement of fact. That's legal fact, right? I have a right to defend myself. Do not approach me with the intent to harm me, or I might kill you, right? Like that's, he's stating the law. That's not incorrect. There's nothing wrong about saying that I have a right to defend myself.
Yeah, there's nothing actionable about that.
No.
If you break into my house at night, and you assault my wife, I'm probably going to do something about it, right? That's not something which is generally actionable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Response to himself. Series finale is dead chimp on the pavement and you monkeys riding when I walk free. Stay tuned.
Now, this could, interestingly enough, actually be prophetic.
Yeah.
Right? This could actually be prophetic that he's saying, so one of you guys eventually is going to attack me. I'm being much more charitable with the language here.
Andrew,
but
why?
He's saying,
why
he's saying one of you guys is going to attack me. If I do, if that happens, I'm going to open up on one of you, and then I'm going to go free, and then you'll really see, right? It could almost be possibly prophetic in a way. Yeah?
Oh, absolutely, right? And again, he uses very inflammatory language there, and if the jury hears that, it's going to be disastrous for him. But his defense counsel should fight like hell to keep that out, because typically, you're not allowed to bring in character evidence. You can't bring in evidence to show that he's a provocative guy, to show that he was provocative on that day. You have to prove he actually said it on that day with a witness, not general evidence about his character. And it would be wildly prejudicial to bring that in.
Well, people keep asking too, well, who initiated the interaction? If it's the case that this guy showed up there specifically because he was looking for Chud the Builder, then that would be the initiation of the action immediately, right? That's already some sort of premeditation. I'm going there specifically to look for this guy. Is that correct?
That sounds like it would be right. Like, I think it would depend on the context, but like, let's say the guy approached Chud and said, aren't you that racist who does streaming? Right? Well, now Chud's not the one who provoked the conflict. Fox provoked the conflict. The question ultimately is going to be, did Chud provoke this or not? Right? And that it kind of does boil down to that in terms of motivation and intent. Keep in mind, by the way, the state has not charged Fox with anything, but that doesn't mean that what he did was legal. Like, they've chosen not to charge him.
And that doesn't mean that they won't either, right?
They could choose to charge him later. Like, if it comes out that he assaulted Chud first, that's illegal. That's a crime.
Well, 1984 equals asked from the R side. Ryan, can you speak to Rouge or tribal jury members? In the Anthony case, we already saw a black potential juror say, I would never convict a brother. They were released, but facts don't matter.
Well, so this is, so for those of you who have never done this, there's something called voir dire, which is this, all the jurors come in, they have to fill out questionnaires, the judge asks them questions. And then each attorney is trying to pick a good jury. And the judge is listening to what the jury says. Now, if somebody says something crazy like that, like I would never convict a brother, the judge is going to excuse them. They're going to say, you're biased, get out of here. You're done. You're off.
It's like when you show up with a Confederate flag on your shirt to jury duty.
They're like, no, we think you're out of here. But then also each lawyer, depending on the state, has a certain number of strikes where they can just say, I don't like that jury, get him out of here. So each lawyer is trying to get the best jury possible. And the judge is looking for jurors who are biased and trying to get rid of them. So it's kind of like a game of chess and a game of theater and a game of poker, right? You have limited information and you're trying to be strategic and figure out how to get the best jury you can. So a lot of this is going to turn, as it often does, on how good Chud's defense team is and what he can afford in terms of a defense team.
Gotcha. This one comes in from IO Hazard. He says, if you're open carrying, which Chud often was, I don't know in this instance, it's a deadly threat for someone to assault you because they could take your gun and use it on you. What are your thoughts there?
That actually does factor in quite often. Like, remember in the Rittenhouse case, one of the things I said is, I remember when I was watching that video, they reached for the barrel of his rifle. And, I'm not even a gun guy, and I can tell you, you cannot let somebody get the barrel of your gun under their control. Like, once they control your gun, you have to assume they're going to kill you. So, if this guy was attacking Chud and it looked like he was going for the weapon, or it looked like he was, picking a lethal fight, I think that does factor into the proportionality analysis for sure.
Now, I think we got pretty close between the two platforms. I think pretty close to 5,000 live at the moment. Ryan, just real quick, just briefly, can you tell everybody where they can go subscribe to you for more analysis like this as we continue this analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. Yeah, so I'm Ryan Mullally. You can find me at Ryan C. Mullally on X and YouTube. I host a show called Natural Law with Ryan Mullally. You want to see some legal analysis or just see me generally piss off Destiny and people like him? Because I don't know if you saw the clip, Andrew. He recently announced that I am both blacklisted and he's stalking me. So that brings me some comfort.
Yeah, I think he was just trolling though. Let's see, Xavier. Yeah. Okay, we're going to keep going here.
That's just the one that shows his motive and intent on what his
But yeah, that was really stupid.
business model is. Does it rise to provocation when he then takes to the street and interacts with black people to get a response? Could very easily be.
Can you pause right there? This is very interesting. I found this part fascinating. Now, this is maybe like me being lawyer brained. What did the lawyer say to the judge? He said, look at his business model. He goes around and he says provocative things to black people. And wouldn't that be provocative in this case? Okay, but what didn't he say? He didn't say he did say provocative things in this case. He said, wouldn't it be? Because he's not sure. He doesn't know whether it happened. He doesn't have the evidence. He doesn't have a witness. He doesn't know. So he's speculating.
So this just seems like traditional well poisoning, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's trying to convince the judge, this guy probably did this. Shouldn't you think he probably did it? But he doesn't have the evidence yet, or he would have said it. If he had the evidence, he would have said, I know for sure Chud called this guy a hard R, and that's how the fight started.
Yeah.
Provocation, which negates any self-defense, or the proportionality of the force used by Mr. Etherly to a punch in the face. He uses deadly force. Mr. Etherly has to reasonably believe of imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury in that confrontation with Mr. Fox. So there are legal aspects to the reasons why this was done.
Now, one quick nitpick that I have here, and I always wondered about this that maybe you could speak on. I always thought if I had a Southern district attorney who was coming for me, that I would want somebody who had a Northern accent or a Western accent. And the reason is because there was years ago, I remember there was a show that demonstrated that a taxi cab driver who was, in England, right, who spoke, actually gave more sophisticated vibes than a PhD who was a Southerner, right? Just based on people's biases. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder, do you think that that's actually a decent strategy? I know this is off topic, but I'm just curious about it.
Well, you got to remember it's a jury trial, right? So you got to think, what is the Tennessee jury going to like better? Do you mind if I tell you a story? It's off topic.
Yeah, very briefly, sure.
It's a good one. A mentor of mine once lost a trial on the first day. He knew he lost. He had no chance. And here's why. He was this fancy New York lawyer, and he showed up in this kind of backwater trial, and he had this beautiful Rolex on, this beautiful goddamn Rolex, because he's a rich lawyer. And the first day of trial, the local boy he was litigating against, right before he did his opening argument before the jury, stood up and said, "Nice watch." And the whole jury looked at the watch and then looked at my mentor, was like, fuck that out-of-town Yankee. And he was cooked. He was so yeah. Sophistication's good, but you also got to win over the jury, is what I'm saying. So I don't, maybe having a local boy helps.
Okay, gotcha. $20 comes in from Justin. He says, I have a similar stance to Asmongold. Chud is a nuisance streamer. He's a disorderly man who goes around shouting, fighting words to provoke response. I think he should receive jail or prison. But, well, the problem with this stance is that whether or not you like the guy or hate the guy is kind of irrelevant to what it is that we're discussing right now, which is this guy guilty and culpable? Or did he defend himself in this situation? So we're not really speaking to his character because that's ultimately irrelevant to the case itself. So I know people like to have opinions, and this happens in debates, this happens in philosophy, this happens with, you know what I mean? People want to have an opinion about a person, and so therefore that person's already crucified before you ever get to anything. But it's like, that really has no bearing on the facts of this, right?
Oh, yeah. Look, it's totally possible that Chud says things that are provocative to the point that he loses self-defense in many instances, but on this day, he didn't say any of that stuff, right? So you can't look at it generally and say he deserves to go to jail in general for being a bad guy. The question is what happened on this day. And we don't know yet. We don't know.
Well, and one thing I think too, this is a hard thing for people to get through their minds, but it's legal to be an asshole in the United States.
Yeah.
And this does piss a lot of people off, but you really wouldn't want it any other way because it's illegal to be an asshole in the UK. And they're miserable. They're miserable. And one of the greatest perks in the US about the First Amendment is that you can be a dick, right? And there's a lot to be said about that, So anyway, back to this.
And the actions my office took. So, and those were all the things that were argued. I think the bond is reasonable. Whether the court wants to put down requirements and conditions on how a bond would be made, I think that would serve Mr. Finley better.
So about the bond point.
Mr. Finley, you look like you want to say something.
Well, that's sometimes one of my biggest problems, Judge. I always want to say something.
If you can pause for a second, because some of this might be outdated at this point, so I just want to make sure we catch up with the chat. Originally, his bond was set at $1.25 million. It got taken down to $1 million, but a lot of conditions were put on it, which made it very hard for him to be released. And also included the fact that he can't post on social media during this time period. But then in that other case, the one about the restaurant, they denied him bond. So he's going to be in jail for that case anyway. So even if he posts bond now, he's not going to get out. So a lot of this hearing is going to be, from this point on, is probably going to be overcome by events.
Ryan, can you please elaborate on the, quote, mother's funeral example? Why would the mind state of the accused determine the result? Why would the legality about the actions be decided based on mind state of the accused?
Okay. So it's the question of, remember, there's 5 things we talked about. It's what reasonable fear, imminence, but the third one was innocence. You can't invoke self-defense if you provoked the fight. So the question is, did Chud provoke the fight? And the funeral example was meant to show it is possible to provoke a fight with words. If you went up to somebody's, at their mother's funeral and said she was a whore that you slept with many times, that's very provocative. And it's very likely that a jury would find that you provoked the confrontation in that case. That doesn't mean the words are illegal. It's not a First Amendment issue. It's a question of, did you start the fight or not? And if you started the fight, you can't claim self-defense later.
Chud should receive bail. He's not necessarily a danger, and worse people receive lower bail for more damaging crimes. He's getting similar punishment to the J6ers for the message and not what's deserved.
It was a very, very high bail. It was a very high bail. It does seem high even compared to other violent crimes. Even I think Carmelo Anthony had like $150,000 bail, and this was $1.25 million. Now, this was in part because there was like a lot of GoFundMes and people who were trying to fundraise for him. And also because if I recall correctly, the officers claim they found a ticket to Istanbul in his house. So I think they tried to say he was a flight risk because of that. So that was their argument. It does seem disproportionately high to me, to be candid, in my experience. But again, the other judge in his restaurant case said no bail at all. So now this is all off the table.
Well, and what the determination for bail is supposed to be based also around you being a flight risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, is there any evidence or indication? I couldn't find any that this guy would be a flight risk. He has high notoriety, easily recognizable. And he was long before this case came out. And it's like, where's he going to go?
Yeah. I mean, I think the evidence of flight risk is that he could make money streaming somewhere else and that he had that ticket to Istanbul. But that doesn't strike me as what $1 million bail is typically made of, personally.
Well, besides that, don't we have extradition with Istanbul?
I don't know. Yeah.
I think we do,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm not sure that these would be any safe havens for you anyway.
Yeah, and the judge put a condition on his bail where he was going to have to wear an anklet to get out. So that would be another limitation. And if you're going to have an anklet, then you're certainly not a flight risk. So why do you need $1 million surety as well? That said, he's not getting out on bail now. So even if he had the money, he wouldn't be able to get out on bail at this point.
Yeah. Well, someone in chat can check that, and we'll see if I'm wrong or right about extradition in Istanbul.
There is, Andrew, sorry, if you don't mind pausing.
Mr. Nash.
There is another clip. It's very short. It's the Fear Buck on X video, which is testimony from today, which is more recent than this, which is something that my chat's blowing up about right now. An officer testified about the timing of the rounds and the fight, which is, I think, a key point. And I think people are misunderstanding what the officer's saying. And I think that's...
Well, I want to play the video of that. We're just not to it yet.
Okay.
By the way, if you could update that in the Discord, the video that they're talking about, that way I can pull it up when the time comes. Right now, we're just trying to establish the facts so far, and we just haven't gotten to those facts yet. So, is it possible, this question comes in, that the left affects this outcome as response to the Carmelo Anthony verdict? It seems to me the left wants to see more division. So I can speak to that. The answer would be, if it wasn't this, it would be anything. Yes, of course. Every leftist is going to sow division. An example of this, today, I noticed that Z, who is the head of Unfuck America, that Z was saying to Candace Owens, oh, hey, there's a bunch of fake TPUSA chapters that I discovered, right, in my own investigation, which is basically her trying to feed ammunition against TPUSA, who is her mortal enemy, because TPUSA has been making these people look like fucking fools, and so was Charlie Kirk. The left will find division wherever they can. However they can, they will do it.
Well, and just to be clear, if he's innocent, then it's because of racism. And if he's convicted, then that just proves that there's racism and they got him. Right. So it's like you can't win for losing in that kind of culture war point. It's going to be a touch point either way.
Right.
Nash, excuse me, not Mr. General Nash, brought up some points that I just want to clarify. It was Investigator Libertor, maybe Sergeant Libertor now, who said he was going through the social media and he testified and put these posts in that General Nash was talking about. Now, these posts weren't done in a vacuum. These posts were part of back and forths between Mr. Etherly and several other folks. So
he's coming in trying to give context to this, right?
Yeah, he doesn't want the well to be poisoned, to your point.
Right, but the well's already poisoned immediately.
Many of which were making threatening remarks to him. So saying he can defend his life or that I'll defend my life with lethal force is the right of every American. Everybody in this country has the right to do that. Everybody in the world ought to have the right to do that.
I totally agree with this take, by the way. There's nothing that this guy is saying that I'm in any disagreement with. I even like the fact that he extended it to the entire world, right? Everybody in the whole world ought to have the right to defend themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and then the riot response, while offensive, was also done in response to threats to him. I believe the post he was responding to was something about, the season finale is Mr. Etherly gunshot wound to the head dead or something to that effect. So he just gave back what he was getting essentially. Now,
well, and Andrew, can you imagine? Like, I know there's a lot of focus on the fact that his content's provocative, but can you imagine what this dude's replies are like? I mean, like the kind of.
Actually, yes, I can.
I bet you can.
I 100% can imagine what his replies are like and what his DMs are like. If I ever showed all of the DMs that I get to people, it would curl their fucking toes. It'd be like, holy shit, the horrific threats and things people say to me are incredible, right? And I don't do anything that's nearly so controversial as what this guy is doing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And to pick up that,
but in many ways, that may make it more impactful. I'm not sure. So, you don't have to do what this guy is doing to be impactful and have all sorts of people who hate your guts and will threaten and even attempt to kill you, right?
Yeah, and if you said, I, Andrew Wilson, am going to be on X corner at Y time, all the haters come out, you could imagine who's going to show up to that and what kind of, like you'd have to get security. Like it would be a very, so the question isn't, does Chud say racist things? He obviously does, but that's not the issue. He has a right to defend himself, and there's nothing wrong with him saying, if you use lethal force on me, I will use lethal force on you. And if he's getting people in his comment, way I think he probably is. That's
I think got to be somewhat cautious there. So when you say Chud the Builder says racist things, right? The contextualization for this, from his perspective, is that he's running a free speech project. He's not racist at all. That he considers that why this is racially loaded language, that it's not actually racist at all. That these words exist in a vacuum, and he's challenging the idea of hypocrisy and free speech. So I'm not even sure that I'm willing to go as far as to say that it's that he's saying racist things if the context of that is true.
Well, I guess we're back to the subjective, objective community thing, right? Let me reframe then to be less edgy. He's saying things that certainly the people who are going to get mad at him are going to take as racist.
Yes, they're going to perceive it as racist. They're going to definitely take,
and I think there's no question about that, right?
Yeah, and, that's my internal Andrew lawyering.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan. When does inconsistent bail privilege within a county or state become a civil rights violation for certain parties? That's a damn good question.
It's a great question, and the answer is like almost never. It would be very, very hard to prove because judges have almost total discretion in this area. In theory, you could put together a lawsuit where you tried to show patterns over time, and then if you could show some kind of pattern that was discriminatory, you could try to make something out of that. But generally speaking, judges' discretion in this area is almost total.
Right. This guy says, nah, he says racist stuff. He's not running an experiment. Well, okay. But do you see how the idea of what you perceive as being racist or not racist is intersubjective to how you perceive these words and how you perceive them in context? And so I can't read the guy's heart. He claims he's not a racist. He says these words, that's true, that are super provocative, but he claims that he's doing that for the purpose of demonstrating that these people are engaging in hypocrisy. I'm not willing to just outright say that that's racism. I'm just not willing to do that unless, now I'm not familiar enough with his content. And maybe if I was, I would say that, but at least on a cursory examination, I wouldn't be willing to just make that claim willy-nilly.
And again, ultimately, whether he's a racist in his heart isn't really relevant to the trial. The question is,
correct,
did he provoke this fight and did he use proportional force? Those are the key questions.
$20 comes in. This case seems somewhat similar to the Zimmerman case. Zimmerman was certainly an asshole, but that isn't illegal. I'm not. What was Zimmerman? Zimmerman wasn't really an asshole. Not really. I don't think he was. But what is the contrast that he's drawing there? That Zimmerman had said mean things online before, basically?
Yeah, that sounds like what he's going with. And hopefully, if his defense attorney's good, very few of that gets to the jury because it's so, again, juries are normies. It's so prejudicial to have this stuff go before the jury. And quite candidly, I don't see, it has pretty limited relevance. Like, the question is, did he say something provocative that day? The fact that he said provocative stuff yesterday, what difference does that make?
Right. Yep, I agree. No, I haven't. I am going to be totally fair here to the chat. I didn't know anything about this guy before this case came up on the radar and people were requesting that I review it. I'd never heard of anybody named Chud the Builder. I had never seen any of his content, and I'm still very unfamiliar with his content. I haven't taken a deep dive. I've only been taking a deep dive on the case itself. So, it's very, very, very possible that if I watched his videos, I'd be like, okay, okay. There's clearly, I would get the same vibe a lot of you are getting. So I'm not sure. I'm just not willing to make claims based around my ignorance. So.
I've got a good compilation for you, but you can't play it on YouTube. So.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
You can't play that one on YouTube, Andrew.
Now, I understand he's a white man saying racially bad things that upset typical folks. I get that. But he still has his First Amendment. And regardless of whether it's offensive by the general population, he has to be allowed to speak when he wants to speak, unless it breaks a law. And it's not illegal yet to say those things. It might be illegal.
So he's just doing his best to try to curtail the well poisoning here.
Because none of this is legally relevant at all. Like, none of this speaks to anything that's actually relevant to the case. This is him he's trying to repair the damage. He's going, oh man, the judge thinks that my guys are terrible racists now. So I got to convince him that he's got some other motivation because I don't want the judge to hate us.
Right. Well, I'm only going to watch a little bit more of this and what he's rebutting, and then I'm going to move on to some of the more relevant modern clips here.
Yeah,
it's written, but it's not illegal here. And I was just talking with my father.
Boy, that's funny. I just made that case a few seconds ago.
Earlier today about Socrates. When he began to criticize democracy in Athens, they decided to kill him.
Well, that's not really what they killed him for, but that's not actually what happened there. But all right.
The greatest minds in history. And now, I don't care if he says offensive things. The whole world can be mad at him all they want to, but we can't prosecute him for that.
I'm sorry, man. Like, sometimes being a lawyer is a tough job. Like, can you imagine this guy? He's like, he's like prepping in the bathroom, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna tell this judge that Chud the Builder is just like Socrates. That's what I got to do with a straight face in the next segment. Like, I understand.
This is like when Socrates criticized democracy.
and it's like Chud the Builder saying, like, stop chimping out and like yelling the hard R's
for that. He's still an American citizen. He has the right to say whatever he wants to say. Some certain exceptions, mind you. But he hasn't done anything like that. And whatever was said to Mr. Fox by Mr. Etherly doesn't warrant a physical attack. That's not what the fighting words doctrine means. The fighting word doctrine limits civil liability if somebody says some horrible things to you. Self-defense does not contemplate words. Mr. Fox had no legal justification for striking Mr. Etherly, and he struck him in the back of the head.
That's true. That's true. Even if, like, we've been talking about whether Chud provoked him, but even if Chud provoked him, that doesn't mean that hitting him's legal. Right? So this is what I was saying. Like, if Chud came up and dropped an N-bomb on him, and then Fox punched him in the face, Fox still committed an assault. Now, he hasn't been arrested yet, but that's an interesting thing to watch for, is whether or not any charges are pressed against Fox down the road.
If we are able to get the proof from wherever on the internet, we're hoping we can get it from. We're still early in the game, but I believe the proof is going to show that Mr. Etherly didn't say anything racially charged until Mr. Fox started threatening to kill him.
Oh, that's interesting. So his lawyer said, I think the proof's going to show that Mr. Etherly didn't say anything racially charged until Mr. Fox started trying to kill him. So a few things there. One, Chud is almost certainly not going to testify. So they need evidence because Chud's not going to take the stand. So he's not going to talk about it. 2, he probably said some pretty racial stuff once the fight started. For sure.
Yeah.
Because his lawyer's admitting it. But he's saying he did not provoke the fight early on. And he's at least willing to say that definitively. Remember, the other lawyer was not willing to say that definitively. He couched it in a likelihood statement. So he's clearly asked Chud, did you say something? And Chud said no. Or at least that's what he's representing.
And then you're struck by somebody who's a self-proclaimed combat veteran who says he was having a PTSD episode. That's for a jury to decide, but there is a strong self-defense here. Proportionality is going to be a question for the jury to decide. But we have we have a man who was attacked and he responded with force, lethal force. That's unquestionable. That's in the video. But he was attacked first. He was approached after he walked away. There's no legal provocation that justifies Mr. Fox's behavior.
That would be another key fact. If let's say they had a conversation and then Dalton walked away, even if you provoked the fight, if you de-escalate and you say, I'm not fighting you, and you walk away, the fight's over. Even if you say something offensive, then you go, I'm so sorry, I'm walking away, I'm not going to fight you. If they then escalate, even though you're de-escalating, that's like a separate fight. That's a separate analysis. So if he did that, if he actually de-escalated and walked away, that would greatly strengthen his self-defense argument.
With that in mind, we do have sources ready to go. Your Honor, just tell me what we need to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. We'll take a second here to pull up the next thing. So before we do, let's get your analysis so far on just what you've seen so far.
Well, again, I think so. There's no question, and his lawyer said there's no question that he used the gun in self-defense and that he hit Mr. Fox. So let's set aside, did he do it? He did it. The question is, was he justified in self-defense? And the only questions that have been raised so far are proportionality and provocation. So the only questions are, how serious was the fight and how serious was the risk before he shot the gun? And did Chud provoke the fight? The prosecutor was unwilling to say definitively that Chud did provoke the fight. Defense counsel said much more strongly that he thinks the evidence will show he did not. So that's a point in Chud's favor. Another point in Chud's favor is that this guy is an Army veteran who said that he had PTSD, which is very threatening if a guy who says that grabs you and starts hitting you. That's a point in Chud's favor. A point against Chud is a real big guy. And I didn't get a good look at Fox, but if Fox is a lot smaller, you might have a hard time convincing a jury that a real big guy's threatened by a little guy. That could be a factor as well. But so far from what we've seen, we don't have all the evidence. Chud certainly seems to have a viable self-defense argument. Nothing seems to suggest he doesn't. Now, the evidence has to come in, and we'll change the analysis as we learn more. But from where we stand right now, he certainly has a reason to argue that he's not guilty.
Okay, now the next thing I'm going to cover, and I know that this has been out there for a while, and we're just kind of playing case catch up here. What you're about to see is apparently the initial questioning of Chud the Builder post arrest.
Yeah,
right?
I think he was talking to his stream because this is Pumped Up Fun. So this is his stream when he was being cared for by the paramedics.
Correct.
Walk away from me. I walked away from him. Walked past him. He was sitting on the corner. I walked up to him because they were pointing at me. They were laughing. They were pointing at me, and I said, "What's up, guys? How y'all doing?" I said, "Y'all like the new suit?" He said, "Walk away from me." I walked away from him. He came back up to me. He literally said, "I have PTSD. I feel like I'm in." He said, "You start saying all that chimp out shit to me, I'm gonna hit you."
Now, can we pause? Now, this is Chud talking. So
Correct.
Take it with a grain of salt, right? Obviously, he's biased. But if what he said is true, then the following happened. He was walking to his court appointment. These people saw him and recognized him because he's a famous streamer. And they started saying stuff to him. He walked over and said, "You like the suit?" They said, don't say that racist stuff to me, because they know him. They know this kind of stuff. Don't say chimp out to me. He goes to leave. The guy says, I have PTSD, and grabs him. Now, if that's true, his self-defense argument is fantastic. Like that's a wonderful self-defense argument. Is it true? We don't know, but his account is certainly consistent with a self-defense argument.
Justin asked, do either of you think Chud will receive a fair trial in the time where Derek Chauvin and other officers were punished because biased jurors were allowed? It doesn't even look to me like he's even receiving fair treatment now with the excessive amount of the bail that was put on him and the immediate well poisoning, which has been allowed. It already doesn't seem like it's fair to me.
I think the big question is going to be whether or not he is canny in the way that he fundraises and pays for his legal defense. Because yeah, there's going to be well poisoning. Yeah, the judge put this big bail on him, but if he uses his notoriety to get a good legal team, he can fight back against this effectively. What he can't do is what happened with Carmelo Anthony. From what I've learned about that case, it seems like the family got taken in by kind of a spokesperson who may have misdirected their resources and may have misdirected their attention, and they were more focused on kind of stuff outside the trial instead of the trial itself. He needs real good defense counsel. He needs real good. He needs to do the OJ thing and bring in some all-star heavy hitters. So hopefully,
I feel like he didn't actually say if he thought he was going to receive a fair trial there, Ryan. You say that sounded like some very lawyering to get out of answering the actual question, which was asked. Ryan, is he going to get a fair trial? Do you think or not?
I think he will have the opportunity for a fair trial. And
You're fired, Ryan.
Yeah.
You're fired.
No, I think you know the point I'm making here, right? Like if you roll into this thing with a public defender, you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you're screwed.
That's the truth. And now I don't know his lawyer, so I'm not putting anything on that guy. I'm not judging him at all. But hopefully he is using his fundraising platform and taking this very seriously and getting a lockdown defense team. Because if the prosecutors are allowed to put in all this social media stuff, he's screwed. He's screwed. There's no way a jury's not going to convict him if they see all his chimp posting and all the stuff that he has on social media, right? Like everyone heard him read those expos. Can you imagine that going to a jury?
They're going to lose their shit.
Yeah, and that's going to be the judge deciding that. So he's got to have a lawyer who's capable of winning that fight. If he loses that fight, he's screwed.
Chud's details on the timeline sounds kind of fishy. Saying he said, I'm going to hit you, then proceeded to hit him, seems like some details are missing in between that.
Possible. But like, who knows, right? Like crazy stuff does happen. Like we're saying is this is Chud's account. We don't know whether it's true.
Right. Okay. We're going to keep going with the call or with the stream here.
Started wailing on me even after I had to defend myself by shooting him. He's still wailing on me.
Where's your weapon at?
They have everything.
What weapon is that right there? I believe that's. Is that yours?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's talking to him right now.
Oh no, you guys are gonna do your thing.
Okay.
He has a graze. I call it a graze to the left shoulder, left arm. He has a slight abrasion right here on his head. Okay. Maybe some scrapes. Slight lightheadedness. No shortness of breath. No issues with memory that I know of.
Can you pause? So that's not a long list of injuries. Like he's got the.
He didn't take an ass whooping. That's for sure.
Yeah. So he certainly pulled the gun early in the encounter, right?
Well, maybe, or it could be that because he's a large guy, when they were scuffling, there wasn't enough time before the fight was broken up for the other dude to get a real advantage. So if he was punched in the back of the head, he's turned around. And, the guy is attacking him. He just might not have gotten any leverage quick enough before the gun came out, right? Or done enough damage quick enough due to the way that the grappling was done. So I'm not sure exactly. You know what I mean? There's not because it looks to me like people were moving to break that up very quickly.
Very quickly. And this is going to speak to, in terms of things that are bad for Chud, this is to proportionality, right? If a smaller guy is fighting you and you get hit in the head, and the cops are running over to break it up, where's the risk of death or serious bodily injury? Now,
Right.
let's change the facts. Let's say he gets clocked in the back of the head. He doesn't know what's going on. He's in the middle of a scrum. He can't see that the cops are coming. This guy's beating him. And as he said, he keeps beating him even after he shoots him. He has no idea what's happening and he's reacting kind of blind. Now, maybe there is a reasonable fear again. But like, this is what I mean by being very fact dependent, because if he saw the cops running over, that would be obviously a loser from a self-defense.
Yeah, this commenter says something here that I agree with. He says, I've been assaulted dozens of times without taking any injuries. I'm way stronger than normies, and they seem to have more rights than me. So he's just saying, here, look, people have assaulted and attacked me, but because they don't do any damage, it seems like it's difficult for me to make a case that they assaulted or attacked me.
Oh, yeah, I think that's right. And here, because remember, the question is objectively and subjectively, though we know objectively in the law really means intersubjectively. Did he have a reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury? Like if I'm being attacked by a guy who weighs 85 pounds, I'm a big dude. It's hard for me to imagine that a guy who weighs 85 pounds is a serious threat to me in most situations.
Oh, man, this is a real bummer for the chat. So for those of you who wanted Chud to get off, the likelihood now seems less likely, and here's why. He has a female judge, Judge Melissa Blackburn. Prior to her election, the focus of Judge Blackburn's practice was in the area of employment law, standing up for employees who face discrimination or unfair wage practices. Oh, bummer for Chud.
I think that's in the other case, though.
Is it?
Yeah, I think that's because remember he has two cases going right now.
Okay.
One's from the restaurant and one's from the for the shooting. And I think that's the judge for the restaurant because we saw the judge in the lawyers we're talking to was that white-haired older gentleman.
Yeah, but is that going to be the trial judge?
I think so, but I don't want to swear to it, but I think the female judge you're referring to is from the other case because I think she's the one.
Well, he's at least fucked in that case. Then.
Well, I think she's the one who said no bail today, right? Like,
yeah. Which doesn't surprise me. Her area of employment, standing up for employees who face discrimination and unfair wage practices. This chick is like a DEI chick.
Yeah.
So.
And if I recall correctly, she cited his social media posts where she was like, yeah, this guy says all this terrible stuff, no bail. And that's, by the way, that's for resisting arrest. That's not for like the shooting. So no bail for resisting arrest is pretty wild.
Yeah, what a bummer. Okay, well, I stand corrected, but it's still pretty bad on the other case, right? Because they affect each other. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's keep going here.
Hey, what's up with that?
A little overwhelmed, but
What's up with this one?
You got a shot for the stomach.
I'm gonna look at it real quick, okay? Grab Go grab me a 4x4. 4x4? Yeah, this is just something I can put on it.
all right.
It's
Thank
not
you.
actually bleeding or heavy or anything.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No damage to the muscle or something.
Probably just-
I don't even want to look at it.
Okay, so Fox got hit in the stomach, as we talked about earlier, and then they said that he didn't have any damage to the muscle. So I guess when he shot himself in the left arm, it just grazed him, like it didn't go through the bicep or anything.
Okay, so that makes more sense. Again, that would confirm my initial analysis for the shots, especially the placement, considering the caliber being a 9mm, which is not a chump's caliber.
Yeah, and shooting yourself in the other arm, that's quite a contortionist act.
Man, I just pray that dude's gonna be all right.
Yes, sir.
Oh man, that's not what you want to say, right?
Well, so this is what I mean.
That's not what you want to say, right? You don't want to say, yeah, that's not what you want. Oh yeah, you're right, Chad. Sorry, 380.
Yeah.
But either way, that's still not a chump's caliber. So if you get hit center mass 5 times with 380, it's probably over for you. But that's not what you want to say here, right, Ryan?
Well, it depends how sophisticated you think he is. Like, because look, again, this is why with self-defense, it's different. In most shooting cases, you say, I didn't do it. So you can't say stuff like that, because if you're saying I didn't do it, then you're saying, oh God, who did it? That's what you're supposed to say, right? But in this case, he's saying it's self-defense. He's saying I did do it, but I was justified. So yeah, he can say that, because he's saying like, oh my God, I had to shoot that guy because he was so crazy. I hope he's okay. I wish that didn't happen. That's fine. Just like he said earlier, they said, where is that is that the gun? He said, yeah, it's my gun. He just admitted it's his gun, because he's not trying to say I didn't do this thing. He's saying I did do it and I was justified.
Right.
I had to walk away from him.
That was just the point of just making sure everybody's, both you and
Dude,
him,
this
are
is
okay.
what happens when people are rich people are saying you'll get rich if you hit this guy. They're all publicly saying if y'all assault this guy, we'll make you rich. Fuck.
That's consistent with his lawyer's statements. Remember, his lawyer said that Chud was worried because people were escalating, people were kind of stream sniping him, people were showing up, and they were trying to pick fights with him because they'd seen his content. So he's given the same story here, which is that in his mind, Fox was the one who initiated it, because Fox was aware of who he was and maybe was there looking for him. That seems to be his story.
Cut the sleeve off.
All right, I'll get one. Hold on. Yeah, we'll try that.
Well, I tell you, give me a pair of focus here. See if they got a pair in their bag over there. I'm gonna cut the rest of your coat here and take the sleeve off.
Johnny McVito says that's exactly what you want to say. It implies your intentions. He will defend himself justly and is not out to kill. Yeah, I understand that, but I also know that this has been twisted in cases before, where they'll say things like, must not have been self-defense because, he's saying, is he okay? Is this guy, I didn't mean to, you know what I mean? This type of thing that can be twisted and used against you.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, the typical advice that lawyers give is like, if you're going to be arrested, is shut up, say nothing.
Yeah.
But he has said nothing that's inconsistent with his self-defense rationale right now. Now, maybe he's hyper sophisticated, but certainly everything he's saying in the moment is consistent with this being self-defense.
If you're ever involved in anything where there's a gun involved and a shot fired and you're around, you shut up. That's you shut your mouth until an attorney is there.
Yeah, you typically say, I want my lawyer.
They don't say anything.
Yeah.
Couldn't Chud's attorney use that I hope he's okay as a way to show that Chud isn't that bad of a guy, and even showed concern for the other guy? Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm just assuming that it can also be twisted by the prosecution. That's all.
Yeah, and the prosecution's going to fight to keep this out, right? Because the prosecution's going to say correctly that Chud is choosing not to testify, because I assume he's not going to testify. Defendants almost never testify in cases like this. So if Chud's not testifying, then how can you put in a recording, right, instead, that I can't cross-examine? That's not fair, right? So this is very unlikely to go before the jury.
And this is exactly why you should never listen to anything that an internet chatter says who's anonymous. This chatter says saying nothing can make you look guilty. That's the stupidest advice I've ever heard in my life. Terrible advice. Saying nothing's always the way to go. Can't be used against you. That's part of the right, that you not saying anything can't be used against you later. That's that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Alien Jesus, you should never say it again.
Yeah,
ever.
That's how the Fifth Amendment works. You have a right to remain silent, and this is why he's probably not going to testify, because as a defendant, you have a right not to testify. And if you don't testify, nobody can say anything about that. Because it would implicate your Fifth Amendment right. But if you go on the stand, now you're just a witness. Now the prosecution can cross-examine you on anything that's relevant to the testimony you gave. And the prosecution's going to be looking for every opportunity to say, oh, what about social media? What did you call black people again? Right? Like, so the odds of him going on the stand is going to be infinitesimally low, because if he opens the door to cross-examination, it's going to contaminate the jury like crazy.
This guy's arguing with me in the chat. He said, "You'll find out the hard way." No, I think you're going to find out the hard way if you think that it's a good idea to open your mouth because you think that's going to make you look less guilty. Cops aren't the ones who ultimately get to make the determination of your guilt or innocence. Their only job is to arrest you and then assist with charging you. That's it. That's their entire job. So your job is to shut up, right? It doesn't matter if cops think you're guilty. That's irrelevant. What matters is if a jury's going to think you're guilty.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, you are not allowed to lie to law enforcement, and you can get in a lot of trouble for lying to law enforcement, but they are allowed to lie to you. So just keep that in mind. I think that that probably explains Andrew's position, plus the Fifth Amendment. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Alrighty. Mr. Trailer? Hey.
I can walk, sir.
Sorry, sir. We'll get you. So he's got a graze right there. Looks like goes in, goes out right there.
It's cutting the circulation off.
Yeah, that's what the
tourniquet on
tourniquet
there.
is supposed to do.
Here you go, buddy.
It's controlled right now. Yeah. I don't know what he looking for.
This guy's defense, he says, but they'll arrest you if they don't know what happened. So what? So what, dude? So what if they do? Do you think that they're going to not arrest you if they do know what happened? Like, what are you talking about? It's irrelevant. That's not even relevant.
Can we be honest about this? This is a situation where outside of a courthouse, 3 police officers broke up a fight where you drew your gun and shot another guy in the stomach and fired.
I'm going to explain my way out of this one.
And you fired rounds that were bouncing and ricocheting, right? There's other people nearby, right? That's the reckless endangerment charge that the gunfire was ricocheting around. The odds of you not being arrested are fucking zero. No one's sweet talking their way out of this.
That's the dumbest shit I ever heard, man. And it can be used against you later.
The officer put this on, so we didn't.
Okay.
Corporal abuse did.
You know what time you placed it?
Not the exact time.
It's been a while.
I'd say it's been 15 minutes.
We probably
15.
lose it.
Yeah. We get a pressure dressing on it. Yeah.
We'll take it off of you, all right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It's not. It went through.
Yeah. It's in and out.
It's not great.
He's gonna be okay.
There's actual penetrating entry. Yeah. Right up.
Yeah, coming in and out. That's great. Great.
Good.
It sounds like they're talking about the other guy.
You know what's
now.
really funny? Just to piggyback off of this. There are police auditors out there who have these large police auditing channels where they're looking at cops who are going outside of the bounds of the law. But here's what I've always found in common. Every single lawyer online, every lawyer I've ever talked to, every auditor that I've ever heard, all of them say the same thing, shut up. But I'm going to ignore all of them because Alien Jesus says, hey, man, maybe you can talk your way out of this one.
I mean, like, look, because here's the reason why everyone agrees on that. It never hurts you in the long run to talk to your lawyer first, but it definitely can hurt you to try to be clever, right? So is there some situation where maybe it's good to talk? I guess there's some, but it's real bad advice. It's real bad advice. Don't listen to this chatter. Don't listen to this dude.
About that time. 10 minutes. 10 minutes ago. Tourniquet was applied.
What's your name, sir?
Dalton.
Dalton.
Heatherly.
Etherly.
Yes, sir.
EATH.
Yes, sir. ERLY.
LY. Do you take any medicines, Dalton?
No, sir.
All right. Are you allergic to any medicine?
No.
Okay.
I know it hurts, hon. Can I just pull your arm out just slightly?
Yeah, do you think?
Yeah, isn't it right in the Miranda rights, Stu? You have the right to remain silent because anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Like it's literally said, they're stated by them themselves.
Yeah. No, technically, this sounds like it's the EMTs, not the cops. Though a cop did ask him, "Is that your gun?" Someone asked him, "Is that your gun?" earlier. I assume that was a cop because why would an EMT ask that question?
Right.
You can relax it.
See it. Yeah. All right, now let's see what we got going on.
Did I shoot myself or
Well, you
did it graze it?
went in. It went in.
Penetrated, yeah.
Okay, that's really funny. Oh, what do you want that? Like, that's objectively hilarious. It's like, did I shoot myself? Yeah. Shit.
My favorite part is that he waited for them to say yeah, like he didn't know whether he shot himself. Like he's got a fucking hole in his arm. He's like,
ah, shit. It's like,
Get this
I got more 4x4 for you too.
Skill one.
Let's go ahead. Are you going to be the one that's going to the villa?
Oh, I wish he'd have just walked away, man.
Chatter says for 20. Just say I didn't do nothing and the cops will let you go.
that's the trick.
That's the trick.
So he just said, I wish he had just walked away. So again, that's consistent with his self-defense claim.
Yeah.
Let's see if he has pole socks on it. See if it has flow. If it's not tight enough, that
You're going out to Maine?
Yeah, we're just going to Maine.
Okay.
Where'd you get it?
I got it from West Palm.
I got it. What's that? That's fine. We use the one on the monitor. Mr. Dalton, how old are you, sir?
28.
28. You said no meds. Are you allergic to anything?
No.
All right. You don't take anything. On a scale of 1 out of 10 right now, what's your level of discomfort?
It's probably a 6.
All right. That's basically the end of the clip.
So he was he the only thing is he definitely was not that banged up. I mean, for a guy who got shot and hit in the head, he's 6 out of 10. He's he obviously didn't get that badly hurt.
No, he was not. I mean, I guess having a bullet graze your arm, I would consider that to be hurt, but it sounds like that was him.
Yeah. Right? Well, and maybe he's just, not a pussy because he had to ask, like, did I shoot myself? Shit.
Shit. I like shit. Okay, what do you want me to say? That's really funny. Take shit for 20, Alex, says Pix Paradox. Appreciate it, Pix. Yeah, so analysis so far seems to be that his after story, at least what was caught on stream, is consistent with what his defense is building out for him, right?
Yeah, he what he said and what his lawyer said line up, which is good. It would be very bad if it was the other way around, but certainly everything he said was consistent with self-defense. Gotcha.
All right, and then I want to move on to the next thing. So, Ether Lee, 28, he's charged with attempted murder, employing a firearm during a commission of a dangerous felony, aggravated assault, and reckless endangerment with a deadly weapon. Now, this is going over the hearing. District Attorney General Robert Nash argued that Ether Lee provoked the confrontation, which would negate the self-defense claim. So that's what the prosecution is ultimately going to be arguing here, right? He goes out to intentionally insult and provoke Black people for a response, said Nash. These are just kind of the highlights from this. Defense attorney Jake Fendley argued that Ether Lee acted in self-defense. We just heard a lot of that. Now, the bond source testimony and judge's ruling. Alex Rosen with Predators and Poachers testified and presented a bank statement for verification of funds. Rosen said that he streams content for income. What does Alex Rosen have to do with this?
So this is all a little bit moot now because he's going to be held in jail on the other case and denied bail. But when they were trying to figure out whether or not he could get out on the 1.25, which was then reduced to the $1 million bail, there's a process called verification. Because let's say you got like a mob guy and you put bail, you don't want them putting up mob money. Right? Or let's say you're in a state where casinos are illegal and then the casino's putting up the money. The court has to check that the money that you're using is not from an illicit source. So various people, including some streamers and I think a casino called Duel, were interested in posting bond for him when that was still an option. So they were coming to court and saying, we'll put the money in the pot. We'll give it X. We'll do X, Y, and Z. And the court was going to look into that and see whether or not they would accept that as a verified source of the bond.
I see. And that ultimately did not happen.
Well, now it doesn't matter because the judge in the other case, your favorite judge.
Yeah, no bond.
She said, well, yeah, because now even if he gets bond in the shooting case, he's going to have to stay in jail for the other case. So it kind of is, 6 to 1, half dozen the other.
Yeah, she gives him no bond for not paying a bill. That's just insane to me. This one comes in unrelated, unfun fact. My country, the Netherlands, is dying. One perfect example: regularly get ads about an app called Second Love. It's a type of Tinder specifically for people in a relationship. Gross. That is an unrelated fact, and I'm not really sure why you said that, but I am now officially grossed out.
Yeah.
The Builder is about to be renamed Cheddar Bob, and he does seem to have genuine responses, especially when under pressure, high stress situations. What the fuck does that mean, Cheddar Bob? What are you talking about?
Yeah. I don't know what Cheddar Bob is. I do think he did come across as very genuine in that audio recording. Like he seemed that. Now the prosecution might say he was rehearsing this, like he was getting ready for this. That's why he had all those tweets about all the terrible things he was going to do. But again, I don't think any of this is going to go to the jury. I think it's going to be excluded from the evidence ultimately.
Gotcha. Now we do need to talk about this latest development, which you helpfully put up on your X account, which was mighty kind of you to do, Ryan. So I'm going to pull up this clip, and then you can kind of explain what's going on with it as well. 1 second here. All right.
Oh, so this is there's going to be some critical testimony in here. People online are claiming that there's a video that shows that Chud shot his gun before the physical altercation started. And I think they're misunderstanding this clip. Now, there could be a video, by the way. We don't have all the evidence. I don't know everything. But I think they're misunderstanding this clip because as I understand this clip, when I hear the testimony given here, what I heard was he fired the gun before they hit the ground. And remember, they were wrestling and then they hit the ground. And that would be consistent with firing during the grappling match. So, we should play it, we should listen to it, and then see what you think. But that's how I interpreted this.
Happening now, the controversial online streamer known as Chud the Builder is making an appearance in a Nashville courtroom. Dalton Etherly faces 3 misdemeanor charges stemming from a May incident at Bob's Steak and Chop House inside the Omni Hotel. Investigators say Etherly live.
So this is a hearing in the other case, and see, there's your favorite judge, Andrew. So this is the restaurant case. So it's 3 misdemeanors, but they're talking about the shooting when they're deciding whether or not he's going to get bond, which he was ultimately denied.
Streamed inside the restaurant after staff asked him not to, then refused to pay. Etherly also faces separate felony charges in Montgomery County for a shooting investigation. During Etherly's court appearance, one investigator on the stand recalled the shooting.
Shots were shown to be fired prior to them hitting the ground. Shots are being shown to have been fired prior to that? Yes. And how do we know that? I can see, or in the courthouse video, it shows the casing ejecting from the firearm. It also shows the ricochet off the concrete plant. Okay.
So can you pause?
So he shot him while they were standing up.
Yeah, he said prior to them hitting the ground. Now the audio's not good, which is why I think people are getting confused. But
well, and people will not always be particularly good faith in various things like this, right? They want to get the most clicks for the headline, and people will purposely. So for an example of this, I have now heard 8,000 different versions of the supposed Iranian deal, right?
Yeah.
And depending on which side you're looking at, whether it's Jewish state media or it's Iranian state media or it's American state media, the versions that I hear of the deal, which nobody still has any idea about ultimately, except that we have this agreement essentially, which was signed, that there's going to be a deal down the road. All of them were misreporting over the top about $300 billion in assets being unseized versus direct payments. So people are not always good faith.
Yeah, people are wild on the internet, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit. But what was said here, I think is consistent with your panic fire theory, right? If they're saying that the casings hit the ground and the ricochets hit before they hit the ground, Well, that would imply that they were fired during the grappling contest, which seems consistent with panic firing and seems consistent with the story that we've heard so far, rather than being a big revelation that Chud drew his gun and fired on Fox while Fox was still approaching him, which, of course, would make his self-defense argument all but impossible.
Right.
Mr. Fox hadn't been hit at that point, correct? You're seeing a...
I don't understand something, though. Can you help me out with this?
Mm-hmm.
Why is this guy giving testimony about that case when this is not going to be the judge for that case?
Because the judge is empowered to hear a real wide variety of evidence and at a bond hearing, because she's trying to make a determination of whether or not to let you out on bond, whether you're dangerous, whether you're a flight risk, all these different things. And she's trying to get a sense of, what happened in this shooting and whether he's a dangerous guy. So she can take almost any evidence she wants. It's almost entirely judge discretion at this point.
In one case, I would assume so.
The judge denied Etherly's release today, citing violent posts he's made on social media. Etherly is also facing a $1 million bond in the Montgomery County case.
Okay, so she denied him bail based on a case that's not even related here?
Yeah.
That's just bizarre to me, man.
Well, so this is, so I was saying, judges have a lot of discretion in how and deciding bond. It's almost entirely up to them. And, she heard this testimony about a shooting. She saw that he had what she called violent social media posts. And then she said, okay, you're a risk to the community. Therefore, I'm denying bond. And the truth is, there's not a ton you can do about that most of the time. I mean, there are challenges available, but generally speaking, the judge has a lot of discretion in how they make those decisions.
Grifter's got a grift for 50. Yes, we do. All right. Well, look, I feel like that kind of gets us up to date on everything that happened. There's a lot of things which are highly speculative, because we just don't have enough information. And I'm still not willing to comment on it outright and say who was right and who was wrong, because we actually still don't know a whole lot yet.
No, that's absolutely right, Andrew. And I think that hopefully what this did for your audience is when the trial starts, and hopefully we get video cameras in the courtroom, right? That's what we're looking for. Now you know what evidence matters, right? Did Chud provoke the fight? Was his use of force proportional? Did he have a reasonable fear of death or serious bodily injury? Those are the things you're looking for. And all the stuff people are talking about online, like he's a bad guy, he said X, Y, and Z to what person, he made what nasty X post, that's all irrelevant. None of that really matters. These are the questions that truly matter. And hopefully when the trial starts, we'll get some more light shed on these things.
Now, everybody's in a rush to take sides here, but it seems like they're in a rush to take sides based along the racial components and who's a bad guy and who's a good guy based on your moral standing of how you think this person behaved versus the actual facts of this case. And the reason that I bring this up is because almost nobody knows the facts of this case yet. They're very, very, very murky. And so because of that, I think that, once again, should not be in a race to either condemn, decry, nor try to vindicate until more facts come out. But of course, that's always going to be the unpopular opinion.
Of course. Yeah. Nobody wants to hear that. Everyone
for some reason in the streaming world, people want you to gamble. And I don't know exactly why. They want you to go, well, before any facts are presented, I'm going to be a soothsayer and tell you what I think is going on here. And then hopefully the facts align with my opinion later. That's why so many people end up with egg on their face. It's a very foolish game that people play for clicks, and it ends up ultimately beating the holy hell out of them down the road, right?
Yeah.
Like, at least I can say that with the things politically which I have been incorrect about, which are things that require soothsaying, for instance, calling an election, things like that, I've at least been wrong about them based on good facts.
Yeah, and look, with legal analysis, you're doing one of two things. You're doing what I was trying to do tonight, which is play it straight and give you as unbiased my view of the law as I can so that you can figure out what you think down the road. Or you're being an advocate and you're picking a side and you're making an argument. None of these people hired me. I'm not an advocate for any of them.
Right.
I'm trying to give you the tools to be intelligently informed as you learn more about this case. And down the road, when we learn more, we might start picking sides. But right now, the evidence just isn't in yet.
There is some evidence here that I would be willing to comment on. For instance, the fair trial aspect of it. It seems absurd how high the bail is. It also seems absurd to me that this guy was in a completely unrelated circumstance where he didn't pay his dinner bill and was denied bail over that. That seems very extreme to me and irregular.
The bail stuff, I think, shows that the judges in these cases are at least partially swayed by his social media presence. Like they're convinced this is a pretty, on some level, like a bad guy because of that, which I think that's a fair comment.
Listen to this stream is an obvious dog whistle for racist and pretending he doesn't have a favorite in this fight. It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Andrew, have you ever done anything that wasn't a dog whistle at this point? I feel like it's just, they just say that now.
I would be willing to bet $100 right now this person is transgender. If they have an anime pick like that and they're losing their minds about it, their leftist plants are almost always trans every single time.
I will say, though, about the evidence that you came in, the one that I found the most...
Just hang on. I just want to ask him, like, are you trans? Tell the truth, Triggered. Are you trans? Did I call it right? Are you? Just answer the fucking question. Are you? I want to know. Did I call it right? Come on, Triggered. Tell me. Are you? I want to know. I got to know. I got to know. Or a furry. Yes, trans or a furry. One or the other.
Are we getting an answer?
I don't know. I will see if Triggered gives me an answer here. Hang on. But now I want to now I want to know.
What are a furry's pronouns? Is it like squirrel self?
Tell the truth, Triggered. Come on, let's hear it. I want to know. I want to know. Triggered says, yes, I am. No, that's not what Triggered said, but I'm saying that that's what Triggered said.
Fair enough. That's gospel now.
By the way, that was a very strange answer. Triggered said, no, I'm male. But that doesn't actually answer the question. You notice that? Wait a second. That didn't actually answer the question, Triggered. You just said, no, I'm male. I asked if you're a transgender. That's my question. Answer the question that I actually asked you, yes or no. You just said, no, I'm male, but that's a very sneaky cop-out, Triggered. Male, not furry, not anything you're assuming. I think everyone has made up their mind already. Yeah, whatever. You still haven't actually answered the question I asked you. I just want to point that out. You just said not a furry.
I feel like that could have been an easy yes or no.
It could have been a really easy yes or no. There's something you seem like you're purposely not telling us here. Okay. You said no, he's male, but that's not really answering the question. Just saying. Not really answering the question.
Triggered squirrel self can
anyway,
keep it to his squirrel self.
I appreciate your time tonight, Ryan. Before you go, tell everybody where they can go and subscribe to you. And by the way, I highly recommend that you do. Ryan does come on the stream fairly frequently to help me break down both legal analysis for cases like this, and he's also been a great debate sparring partner for helping me with legal issues there. So go ahead, shout your channel out again.
Hey, Andrew, thank you so much for having me on. And Crucible Crew, glad to have you. Really, really appreciate the chance to hang out with you guys tonight. Ryan C. Mullally, you can find me on YouTube and X. The channel's Natural Law with Ryan Mullally. And yeah, we do legal analysis, political analysis, some American philosophy, and a bunch of debates. So come on by.
All right, I appreciate it, man. You have yourself a wonderful evening.
Have a good night, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Nope.